Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are
I'm
you?
good. Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is Apiwe Nxusani-Mawela. I'm the founder and brewmaster of Tolokazi. So Tolokazi is a brand of beers and ciders that I started in actually 2019 before the COVID pandemic at the brewery Bruce's Craft. When the brewery closed during the pandemic, we then continued with the brand. So Tolokazi pays homage to the female brewers, past, present, and future. Obviously inspired by the Tolo clan, so Ndimam Tolo, Tlangamandla, Babenekazi, and the brand is about celebrating women, celebrating Africa through the beer, through the ingredients that we use, through the design, and just the whole story.
Okay, so you mentioned two things. You mentioned that Tolokazi specializes in beer and ciders. So what exactly is the difference between beer and cider?
So beers are, both are beverages. They're both alcoholic beverages. So a beer is, by definition, according to South African law, had to be brewed with 35% of cereal. So the ingredients are malted barley, hops, and yeast. And then with Tolokazi, we also use South African ingredients. So we use a lot of sorghum. So in our sorghum pilsner and the pale ale, and then in the lager, we use South African grain. Whereas with the cider, we use fermented apples. Our apples are coming in from the Clarence in the Free State, so which is one of the areas that grow apples. So it's just the ingredients that you use to ferment to make the alcohol that makes the difference between the two. So essentially the brewery closed down. That was mainly due to the pandemic. So I think 2020, South Africa, as we all know, we had very tight regulations around the sale of alcohol and distribution of alcohol. So we couldn't produce. And at that time, we had just started. We were about 6 months to a year in production, and we had not captured the market enough. And since we closed, the focus has been on growing the brand and relaunching, reintroducing it to grow brand awareness, so that by the time we open the brewery again, the brand is quite established. So that's what we're focusing on for the past few years. So one of the things we do is obviously controlling temperatures, controlling the amount of yeast that you use. Because if you start having a very fast fermentation, you can end up losing the beer, and not only lose the volume, but you also start having different flavors. So having brewers that are properly qualified doing the production, so that they understand what to do and what not to do, that helps controls the quality and obviously how the product tastes.
And then does beer and ciders have shelf life? Do they expire?
Yes, they do. So both of them do expire. So depending on most of the commercial beers, they normally give them about a year shelf life, and that's based on the production process where they do pasteurization. So pasteurization then means you just expose the product to heat so that it lasts longer, similar to what they do with milk and other different products. In the craft beer space, which is like a smaller produced, we obviously don't have money to have the big equipment. So our products have a shorter shelf life. If kept cold, we typically last about 3 to 6 months. And then the ciders, because of on the rooibos, for example, it's a natural antioxidant, so it does help protect the beer from spoilage. In the beer, we also use hops, which are natural preservatives. So there's things that are intrinsics in the product, which are part of the ingredients that help elongate the shelf life. And also then there's things that you can do in the production to help the shelf life last longer. So it's always wise to always look at the best before date on your product. So most products would have. So we also put on our own products.
And then with marketing, what exactly are you doing in order to get, what are you doing in your marketing space? As in, how are you going about marketing your beer and making sure that everybody now knows about it and the same mistakes that happened before don't happen again?
So one of the, obviously, because we cannot afford to, put up billboards across the N1 or put up in every newspaper or news or anything like that. We rely on like PR, typically radio interviews and covers, stuff like that. And then we also spend a lot of time on our social media. So we're using social media as a way of marketing, and also looking at how in South Africa and globally, that's one of the fast growing ways of marketing, not so expensive. And then we also started exploring use of influencers to kind of spread the brand and kind of fast track the awareness, because we all know that the power of influencing, the power of word of mouth, and helping that is what will help us reach more people, and at the same time supported by the product availability, so that when people get to know about the product, we do activations and in-store at events where people get to taste, touch and feel, and hoping all those different marketing touch points can actually help us grow the brand. So beer is beer. That's the first thing. You drink it. It's all made from the same ingredients: malted barley, hops, yeast, and water. And the difference is just, craft is typically handcrafted, smaller produced. You typically know the person who made it. And then the premium mass-produced beers, typically in a bigger factory, where they're pushing more volume. So everything is made in volume. It's made faster. It's more rich. It reaches more people. And the pricing tends to be cheaper because they've got economies of scale. They can buy bulk bottles, bulk ingredients, whereas with craft you are smaller, so everything you buy is in smaller quantities, so your price point becomes a bit more. So like high level, those are some of the differences. So our industry is very obviously not just male dominated, but also white male dominated, but interestingly, women traditionally in the traditional brewing space are still the ones that brew beer. And if we look at even in the clear beer industry, it was initially women who were the brewers, and globally there's a growing number of females in the space, which is making things a little bit easier for new people to enter. But I think for me, my own challenges were in the beginning, having acceptance, people understanding that I'm a woman who's black. So I think for me it's like double dosed, where you are black, then you are female, in an industry that is not welcoming to both. So it has been a journey. I mean, I've been in the space for I'm about 15 years now in the industry. So it's taken time to prove myself. And what has worked also for me is coming in with the experience from SAB, having qualified as a master brewer. So you carry a bit of weight. So when you say something, people understand that you kind of know what you're talking about. So that kind of helps with some of the barriers and makes things a little bit easier.
You touched base on reception, right? So as much as it was difficult for them to receive you before, how are they receiving you now? How are they receiving Tolokazi now?
So at Tolokazi, we're building a global brand with we call it a local brand. So it's global appeal it's a global brand with local appeal, where we are touching on locals, talking to the cultural aspect, talking to who we are as Africans, but at the same time, linking the brand to globally what's going on, because there's a lot of interest in Africa from a global space, and we through the brand want to continue celebrating Africa and celebrating the ingredients and what we have to offer. So that has helped us a lot to get to be received, because I think the brand story itself, it resonates with a lot of people, whether you are South African or non-South African. There's something within the brand that talks to you, and we try then to leverage on some of those points through our marketing drives to make sure that people receive us and the brand itself, and I think through that receive me and everything else that we do.
And then where can we find Tolokazi? That's the biggest question.
Yeah, so we are still obviously small and growing at our own pace. And things are slowly, getting there. So we mainly do currently focus on events and markets. So we're at Fourways Farmers Market as permanently there. And then we have outlets in Pretoria, some outlets in Joburg and in Cape Town. We're also looking in the Eastern Cape as our 3 main target provinces. And then we also have availability online on like Jozi, Macro online. And we also have our own tap room based in Wynberg, where people can come and experience, taste the different, the full range. And then events we normally post on our socials where we would be at any given point in time. Almost every weekend we have an activation somewhere, an event somewhere. Being a small, obviously small brand, people don't know you. So if you end up if you find your way in a retail space, the product's going to sit on shelf because no one knows it. People will not buy it. But at the same time, to get into those outlets is a bit difficult because other than the fact that the brand, no one knows it, but the requirements in terms of listing fees that most of the retailers want as a payment upfront, and as a small brand you can't afford that. And once you are in, then they require marketing, they require merchandising. There's a whole lot of costs that if you do not have the right financial backing, can be difficult to penetrate as a small brand. And for us, we've decided to grow in our pace and be in outlets and get people to try the product. And as we grow and more people know it, then we can get into more and more outlets.
And then out of your own brand, right, both in beers and also ciders as well as the lagers, which ones are your top favorites?
They all are. They're all favorite. Ask your mom who's here. Within your kids, you always you can't really differentiate who. You can't say. You can think about it inside, but you can't really say it. But I think for me, based on what people enjoy the most, is probably what I would say are my favorites also. But in terms of our volumes, the ciders are more received. The rooibos and berry cider and the marula cider. And then we also have the lager that's doing quite well. And then when we do our seasonal beers, people would, we once did a mango beer that still people today will ask, when are you launching that again? So you find that depending on the time of the day, the time of the month, what else is happening, either all of them at some point are favorites. So they're all my favorites. Being brave means obviously not being afraid of who you are, not being afraid of not being able to occupy your space, and not being worried or concerned about what everyone else thinks of you or what you are offering. Being confident in who you are and what you're bringing on the table. And know that you're gonna have naysayers, but it should not influence who you are. And being so good that people cannot ignore who you are and what you do and what you have to offer. That to me is to be brave.